Yo peeps, welcome to Conspiracy Cupboard. Today we're going to be covering some more cases from 1974 and obviously the Aveley UFO abduction case in Essex. Okay, so this happened in October, I think it was October 27th, 1974. So I'm doing this one as well because Philip Mantle is linked to this in a book that was brought out by Andrew Collins. Andrew Collins reports on the Aveley abduction case. So obviously, if you're familiar with Philip Mantle from a few of his interviews that you might have seen him on, and obviously I'm trying to get him on here. It's just my end that he's waiting on, basically. Yeah, cue the title sequence. Let's get into this interesting case. There we go. So today's episode, I just wanted to say, is sponsored by Elsey Facilities Management Group. So if you've got any kind of property service requirements from commercial to domestic, they are your guys. Give them a call on 01332 955 088 and you won't be disappointed. So everything from window cleaning to grounds maintenance to building a house for you, to putting soffit and fascias up, anything you need around the local Derbyshire area. We do cover a larger area than that, and if you phone up and request a job, we can always see whereabouts you are and if we can fit you in. So give the guys a call. If you want to send an email across as well, if you go to inquiries@efmg.com, I think you'll find them on there, and the website as well, which is posted on here. So I've got to do a little advert there in between. So as I was mentioning, Philip Mantle, he covered the Pensacola case with Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson, and obviously their encounter there was very different, and they are the closest people to basically give their reports back after being abducted. They spoke to police not long after. They phoned the military, the air base and stuff there, and got told basically to go to the sheriff. And obviously we know the story, and if you go and watch the video, you'll see clips that I've got from there. So the Aveley abduction case then happened in the same year, 1974. This was October though. And obviously it happened in the UK. Now their sighting is very similar in some regards to the Betty and Barney Hill case and a few other cases. But just remember, this is 1974, okay? This is a very normal UK family, okay? And as you'll hear in the events that happened, they didn't really want to come forward. So then, on late Sunday evening, October 27th, 1974, a run-of-the-mill Essex family were driving a route between Howell Hill and Avery to see relatives. The Avis family consisted of John, aged 32, his wife Elaine, aged 28, their 3 children, Calvin, aged 10, Karen, aged 11, Stuart, aged 8. They were on Hackton Lane, about 1 mile from Hornchurch, which for them was very noticeably quiet roads for even a Sunday night. So in the Collins report, he mentions that they were glancing around. Both John and Elaine saw, at an angle of about 25 to 35 degrees above the skyline, an oval-shaped pale blue incandescent light like a big star over the top of the houses and hills to their left. Now, at the time, 1974, driving back through Essex, it was still fairly rural, so they were going through a lot of country lanes and not many houses about, and they came upon, I think it was 4 terraced houses in a row, which is where they encountered a mist. So they'd seen this oval-shaped blue object. Now, I wanted to reference this to the Pensacola case because the object that was seen then was also a blue lighted UFO. Okay, so we're seeing a same blue lit UFO. Now, the aliens that you're going to hear about that they encounter are different to the ones that the guys there experienced, that Parker experienced, but the description of the ship still very similar. The family remembered that the big star seemed to be traveling in the same direction as the car, stopping and starting as it moved, jumping about in the night sky. The light seemed to stay with them for periods where rows of trees and country lanes could obscure the view. At which time in the early stages they would relax. Thinking it may have gone, at first John and Elaine thought it might be a helicopter light or something, but obviously after seeing it for another several minutes, they began to become concerned. So the Avis family cleared the last of the houses, venturing into open countryside. Eventually passing the White Hart pub, they were approaching country lanes up near Upminster at around about 30 miles an hour, when they had a terrible feeling that something was wrong. Suddenly the engine and tyres went silent, and the only sound that could be heard was that of their radio. Then, as John went through the bend on Aveley Road, they could see no more than about 30 yards in front of them, and covering the whole road was a thick mist or fog described as dense green and blanketed about 9 to 8 feet high. So, really eerie then. We have had similar sort of feedback from people saying that they've had mist-like, eeriness, the sound deadening, basically like something's changing your perspective, taking you out of where you are. Now, as you'll see in a minute, they were not far from a row of houses where this occurred, only small houses, but they obviously heard nothing, these people that were in there, or maybe they did, maybe they had some experience too, but it's not something that people would have come forward to. So, just as the mist was seen by the Avis family, the radio started crackling and smoking, causing John to pull out his wires. Then they were engulfed by fog, still travelling around about 30 miles an hour. Elaine recalled the car jerking violently as the mist curled around the car, with 2 of the children still asleep in the back, while Kevin was awake. John and Elaine recalled it was very light inside the fog, and they felt very cold. A tingling sensation was felt, and there was dead silence. They recall being in the mist for what seemed like a second or two before they were out. So this seems very similar then to a case I brought up on the A70 in Scotland. It wasn't a mist that the guys drove through. It was a beam of light, but it still covered the road. Their radio went weird. They felt odd. They drove through. They believed that they had passed through this mist or light in about 1 to 2 seconds. And as we'll see in a moment, they lost 3 hours of time, and it appears that these guys lost time as well. There was a jolt described as like a car going over a humpback bridge, and the mist was gone. Elaine remembered asking, "Is everybody here?" So obviously she had some kind of feeling that something had happened, and had the wherewithal to ask if the children were still in the back. So with herself and John feeling very nervous and frightened, although no ill effects were remembered at the time, and 2 of the children, aside from Kevin, were still asleep. So with them both feeling very weird, they decided not to speak about it and gave a very let's just go home kind of atmosphere in the car. Now the couple were expected to be home around about 20 past 10, with John wanting to watch a television programme that obviously at the time you couldn't just go back and rewind your TV unless you'd set up the VCR recorder. So by the time they got inside then and put the children to bed and John went to sit down, they realised it was about 1 a.m. Now, at the time that they left, they should have only been half an hour or so. It was around 3 hours. The couple could not account for their time being gone. So once again, just like the A70 incident, 3 hours of time have gone. I know in other abduction cases there varies from 45 minutes to an hour, possibly to 3 hours, and obviously in the case of Travis Walton, which I will be getting into, you'll see he was gone for 5 days, but that was a very different occurrence. So then this case is the reason I'm doing this case actually is because as you've probably seen in a few episodes before, I'm trying to link the paranormal to these UFO cases and sightings, because as you're going to see in a second, they had paranormal encounters. So the family reported unnerving incidents around the family home after the encounter. Now bear in mind, 2 of the children were still asleep at the time, so we're not sure if they had been examined upon as well or if they had been left in the back of the car, because when they all awoke, they were in the back of the car, and it's only Kevin, the 10-year-old, that remembers being taken aboard with his parents and separated from them. There was also notable changes in the family, especially after seeing objects levitating. Before Christmas that year, John had a nervous breakdown and stopped working, before later taking on a job working with mentally handicapped people, something he had wanted to do for years. The job fell into his lap. A different direction from his usual carpentry and construction work, he would also begin writing poems about life, and Elaine started attending college and reportedly grew in confidence. So there were huge changes then before they'd even started to remember what had happened. Additionally, John and Elaine stopped eating meat and became far more health conscious in their nutrition, with a taste of meat or fish now making them ill. And whereas therefore before the incident they would enjoy a good drink of alcohol, the couple would now not touch a drop of it. The couple also became more environmentally aware, and John also quit smoking as well. I mean, he was smoking between 60 to 70 a day, and he knocked it on the head. Kevin's reading age at school was reportedly beyond his years, whereas prior to the incident, he had been reported as backwards in his age. The family reported unnerving incidents as well around the home after the encounter, including objects levitating, clicking noises, the sound of Morse code could be heard, and young Kevin reported seeing a strange figure beside his bed on one occasion, similar to that looking of some kind of clown. Now, the girls as well, his sisters reported seeing other things in the home, shadow people, objects obviously, like I said there, levitating, moving. So this is what provoked them then to basically go and get some help. So they approached Andrew Collins, and he got them to do hypnotic regression in the regression session. So, hi there, welcome to the hypnotic regression session. Late night jazz, funk town. Yeah, so keep on joining us until late night, 1 a.m. on the hypnotic regression session. Okay, sorry about that. Every time hypnotic regression session is mentioned, I suddenly slip into some kind of jazz vibe. So when questioned by Colin, both John and Elaine would admit to the strange dreams in which creatures would examine them on long tables and other visions of that kind of ilk. At this point, Collins sought hypnotist Leonard Wilder to query the couple's subconscious and see if these dreams were masking a real abduction memory. So I know a lot of people are skeptical about hypnosis, but a lot of the time you're just recalling memories that you have or that you have suppressed. Now people can put ideas into people's head, but like I'm saying, this is 1974 that this occurred. 1978, most of this stuff then got compiled. Okay, so it's a few years later. So yeah, they might have had time to compile the story together, but why make this up? They didn't make any money out of it, and as far as I'm aware, these are pseudonyms of their names. I'm not too sure if these are their actual names. So, you know, they haven't gained anything out of it. They just basically want to come forward because they're being haunted now after seeing something in the sky, going through mist, and then paranormal encounters, you know, clicking, strange noises, visions, things being seen next to someone's bed, a clown-like guy appearing, you know, in someone's room. That is the connection that I'm looking for. So, John was the first to agree to hypnosis, while Elaine declined, preferring to try and move on and forget about it. Instead, it was decided that hypnotizing Kevin was not an option due to his age and the impression of any memories may leave. So, John obviously was the first to undergo hypnosis. He began to remember as the car entered the mist, he found himself suddenly in a big room with tall, peaceful beings in one-piece colourless suits. John recalled that they had pink eyes I'm not going to do any pink eye I've just done it. Pink eye references. Okay, go on. You do all your pink eye references now, quick, while I'm just waiting. You done? Okay, so they had pink eyes and communicated by telepathy. Now, once again, telepathy is another thing that they say all these beings are doing, and everyone recounts basically telepathy being used. They put him on a table and ran a bar-like instrument over his body. He asked where they came from. They showed him a map, but not a map, and gave an explanation of which he could only remember Phobos. So Phobos is a planetary star system, I believe. They travel, he was told, almost instantaneously. They explained how, but he could not understand. A small being was also present at the table. It had kind of fur-like covering and made chirping sounds, and it seemed to serve the taller beings. Leonard Wilder remarked to Andrew Collins that John was an excellent subject for hypnosis, and a second session was arranged. In the second session, John remembered that when the car entered the mist, the white beam cut through it and lifted the car. The next thing he knew was that they were in a very large room, as he said. Here, an examiner, smaller than us, with big eyes and a mouth not like ours, examined him. So the tall beings had no visible mouths. John understood that their propulsion system used a magnetic vortex of some kind. Though he had begun to mutter somewhat incoherently in responses at this point, he encountered only 3 of the tall beings and only 1 communicated with him. When John was asked the reason for the beings' visit to Earth, he replied, "No visit, they are here always." Asked where they came from, he said there was no need for them to say, and that they have no need to return home. They have more than one base here, he said. Wow, chilling. This is another thing that I've thought for a very long time. Are these beings already here? Now, it claims obviously here that they are from somewhere else, but they are here now. They've been here for a while. Do we have an ancient species of ours that are already here? Which I'm going to be doing in my next episode, which will be about an ancient civilization. And are we the next Atlantis? Are we the next mythological race? So then John basically said that after his hypnosis session, he reported being that he could not actually say where the beings were from, and a few other pieces of information that basically he is blocked. He's not allowed to tell. He knows, but he can't say. And being able to not say means he can't recall then to actually tell you. So it seems like these beings still had some kind of hold over him, or implanted some kind of message or blocking in his mind so that he couldn't actually tell us everything that they had said. So this case then is still spoken about frequently in UFO circles. Andrew Collins did a very accurate report at the time, and since there have been a number of articles subsequently written by others that are a way of Mark Delis say, for instance, contrary to some reports, the witnesses is neither uneducated nor unskilled. Far from that, in fact. People seem to forget that John was an actual abductee and that he reported what he believed took place and was truly life-changing for him. John has also explained that he would like to be more involved in the UFO scene, but at this very time he tries to, strange things seem to happen to him and his family. So, wow. Now, that encounter there is just incredible. The beings are very strange. I have never heard of any beings like that before. Little furry sort of things. Now, if you go to some of the later claims, I'm talking about these earlier ones. So if you go to later claims, there are beings now that we are seeing that seem to have brownish skin, maybe some kind of fur, red eyes. Obviously, the case that I covered before, the Brazilian case, where they saw the creature out there, and that was a kind of furry kind of creature. Is this the same creature that belongs to these beings? Can we now start tying in? I mean, how many more cases do we need? So if you want to go and check out the book then, Collins, the Alveley Abduction, a UFO case report. It was first edition in 1991. You can find that online, download it. I believe that, I don't think there's an audiobook version of it, but you can download the book there. And obviously, like I say, Andrew Wansley, Philip Mantle and Andrew Collins, authors, co-authors, case reporters on there as well. So a few other cases then. I mean, if you just type in, after you've watched this, just type in 1974 UFOs, okay? You're going to get thousands of them. So we've got another case in 1974 in Wales. Now, obviously, if you know, I've done the other Welsh incident, which was the Penrich incident, which was 2016. So another incident they claim to be the Roswell, as well as this one, another crashed object, possibly in Wales, happened in 1974. So there was a huge bang and bright, brilliant light over the Berwyn Mountains in northeast Wales. And there were later claims a spaceship crashed and was then concealed. Now, this was actually put down to a very noisy earth tremor, a small earthquake, and a meteor burning up in the atmosphere. But that might sound all well and good. You've tied that together. Okay, fantastic. But actually, people from RAF Valley of Anglesey were scrambled to go and search for a possible downed plane or object in the area. And the MOD investigation, obviously, they concluded that there was no UFO seen, although, and this was January 23rd in 1974. But people reported seeing stuff over Lincolnshire, Sussex and other counties, and flying in over Manchester and Edinburgh on the same night. So that's just another little case for you. Basically, a fireball was seen and it headed towards the Berwyn Mountains in Wales. So we've got that little case there. You've got another. This is in Mexico. So we have got more in the UK, and I've covered some of them in when the aliens came to school. If you want to go and watch that episode, so 10 times aliens have visited schools. There's episodes that happened in there, and an event that happened in 1974 again in there. So we've got another one here, which was the 1974 crash in Comaine, Mexico. So a late evening, a small plane in El Paso Airport was its destination in Mexico City. No one knows exactly who was on the plane. And basically it collided with another object that was seen on radar, but it was moving sporadically. And the military basically was sent out to go and retrieve an object over there. So a plane collided while flying over the Gulf and with another aircraft at high speed. It was over 2,500 miles an hour at an altitude of 75,000 feet initially and headed for Texas. It turned into Mexico. It descended to 45,000 feet and then slowed to just under 2,000 miles an hour. And finally, the unknown aircraft leveled off at 2,000 feet. And just like the pilot of the small plane, as a name we do not know, they both collided when they were near the town of Comaine. So from what is understood, the pilot of this plane had originated in Mexico, so the FAA was not required to investigate the incident. Nevertheless, US officials did offer assistance, but Mexican officials declined. The US was aware of the event since the whole incident was monitored on radar up to the point of collision when they lost contact with both of the aircraft. The high speed of the second aircraft and the erratic flight path is what initially alarmed US Air Defense Network. Later, the eavesdropping on Mexican communications, it became apparent to the US military who was piloting the second craft. They didn't know his name, but they certainly knew one thing: it wasn't from this world. So the second unidentified craft then was surprisingly close to intact, even though it obliterated the small plane that it came into contact with. When the Mexican personnel arrived at the second crash site, they were shocked to find that the second craft was actually a disc-shaped object. It had damage to one side with a small rupture exposing the inside of the object to the outside elements. Once the Mexican military were aware of what they had found, communication suddenly stopped. Even though the blackout was ordered, the US used satellite and spy plane reconnaissance to monitor what was going on. So they saw the object was small enough to fit onto the back of a flatbed truck. The Mexican personnel used to transport it this way. A convoy of vehicles was assembled and they headed south of the object and the wreckage of the plane. Now, it doesn't say whether there was any bodies or anything there. It just says wreckage. But for some inexplicable reason, they stopped moving after around about 45 minutes of travel. A US spy plane flew over, revealed that all of the personnel were seemingly unconscious. This is when the US military made their move to capture the object. So 4 helicopters, 3 Hueys and a Super Stallion, the US headed across the border. As a precaution, they donned biohazard protection. When the US personnel arrived at the convoy, they found that all the members of the Mexican recovery team were dead. Quickly, they hoisted the object off the flatbed with the Super Stallion and then proceeded to eliminate all of the evidence, including the bodies. The UFO recovery team used a good amount of explosives. They did not only to eliminate evidence, but also to prevent any further contamination in the area. Now, is this a true story or not? Okay, so the collision occurred on the night of August 24th, 1974. The recovery took place the morning after. So there was a collision. It is actually reported. And a few possible locations for the object, whichever it was taken either to Area 51, Fort Bliss, or Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Now, there was a novel, The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton, which was published in 1969, and the movie was released in 1971. Now, this story does have similar uncanny sort of elements to this film, but we are aware that, you know, there's a lot of drug traffickers and stuff over Mexico, so maybe that was some kind of cover story, but there was a report that has been found that the US military did go in and take something from Mexico. It's not the first time that they jump in and take stuff, just like they did in the Virginia case in Brazil. So there you go. That's another 2 cases for you then. I'm not going to reel any more off, okay? I'm going to let you guys go and investigate. So just put into Google 1974 UFOs, okay? And like I said, I've been covering up to this point. But yeah, absolutely fascinating case. So like I said, if you've got any stories, any bits that you want to give to me from the UK about paranormal sightings, UFOs, anything like that, please give them to me. And also go check out my sponsor, Elsey Facilities Management Group. Fascinating group of people. I'm one of them, obviously. So window cleaning, gardening, grounds maintenance, all that kind of stuff we cover. Yes, I have a normal, well, it's kind of normal job where, you know, we do all that stuff. So yeah, by all means, go and give us a look. We cover all Derbyshire and South Yorkshire. So yeah, give us a look, and we can see what we can fit in for you. But anyway, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. And yeah, what a fascinating case. I don't see any reason these people would be lying. And the fact that, you know, they had paranormal encounters after this event, that to me is the most interesting part of it. You know, I would love to know if Colin Parker had any kind of paranormal. I mean, he's not mentioned anything like that in his interviews, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who do say that they have had or seen something and then they have paranormal encounters. I myself had paranormal encounters. I'm going to do another bit of mischief episode for you, covering a few of those again, and some more bits. And obviously I'm going to be getting my friend on to talk about his experiences as well. So until then, stay safe, people, and keep watching those skies. See you later.